Yeah, welcome to the Daily Exchange, guys. We're back here and we're talking with Band Protocol. We've got Suavis with us. He's going to explain everything about oracles. We'll see you guys right after this. Welcome back, guys. We're here. We've got Suavis on the line. He's the CEO of Band Protocol. The Twitter handle is @BandProtocol. Welcome, Suavis. How are you today, man?
I'm good, doing well. Thank you for having me here.
Awesome stuff. Now, I guess Oracle protocols, and I guess, we're sort of using the word decentralized data feeds are really quite topical right now. And you guys are right on the scene. You've got investment here from Sequoia. You've had a token sale on Binance, which has been doing really well. There are a lot of decentralized finance applications coming out. So it's quite an exciting space. I just thought, maybe can you start by just giving us a bit of an overview? What is Band Protocol?
Sure. So let's talk a bit about background, right? In terms of why we need Oracle or what is Oracle, because I think most people do not understand that, right? Oracle is essentially a service that provides data, real world data to blockchain, right? Essentially because blockchain world cannot connect directly to, let's say, the Web2 or the traditional web that we use, right? Like Google, like Facebook, right? Blockchains are live in its own world, right? The smart contract. So it has no idea to access those data, and that make them use cases quite fairly limited, right? Now, in order to do that, they need to use Oracle to do that. Band Protocol provide a decentralized Oracle service to smart contract. So essentially, we connect all the real world information to a smart contract in the blockchain in the most decentralized manner. Because if it's not, then essentially your whole smart contract is then centralized.
Okay, so let's just talk about that. Let's break that down as well. So right now, what would you describe as decentralized finance? So what are some examples where an oracle might need to be used?
Right. So I mean, clearly an example, right? We see a lot of the decentralized lending protocol coming into the market, right? Like MakerDAO, for example, Compound as two of the biggest, I guess, DeFi projects right now. And when they use Oracle, is essentially, when people want to borrow some money, they need to put up a collateral, right? Let's say that's Ethereum as a collateral. So the smart contract need to know what is the current price of Ethereum right now, because if the price go down, the system needs to liquidate those tokens in order to cover the fund, right? Essentially. So that's really critical, right? Somebody need to tell the smart contract what is the current price of Ethereum. And if it's wrong, it has a potential to essentially collapse the whole system, right? If the Oracle say, hey, actually Ethereum is $5 right now, it will force liquidate every position in the MakerDAO right now.
Okay.
So that's one of the I guess example of how smart contract really use Oracle service, and that's a big problem, right? Again, because if this Oracle service is centralized or compromised, it will affect the whole system. Right? It's a systematic risk right now.
Okay, so what about I guess recently we've seen the rise of synthetics, and synthetics was on the show recently.
Right.
You can see that interview, guys, on the channel. With synthetics recently, they had an issue here where they misquote the price of US dollars, and they're I guess they potentially lost millions of dollars. It could have been disastrous. How does Band Protocol prevent something like that?
Well, see, I think what happened to that particular case, right, is somebody misreport the data, right? Misreport data because one of the, let's say, API failed, right? And that's because they also didn't safeguard it as well. Meaning, there's no if it's failed, what is the method to recover that, right? Whereas for us right now, what we do is, how Band Protocol try to solve this is, look, you cannot avoid having someone to report the data, but you don't want to rely on just one person or two person, right? You want to rely on a network of data providers. So essentially what we do is we have a bunch of data providers who provide the same data and verify the data, right? In order for the data to be incorrect, you need over 50% of them to actually cheat or fail at the same time, right? So we need to make sure that the cost of doing that is really, really expensive or really, really difficult to pull off, right? As opposed to the benefit that it derived from, right? So essentially, think of it almost like a miner, right? Where miners can actually collude to 51% attack Bitcoin blockchain, but they do not do that because obviously the benefit of doing that is less than the cost that they will get, right? So what we do is we try to mirror the same economics where we say data providers have the incentive to provide the accurate data, make sure they're 100% uptime, and then they will receive the benefit from that, right? Better than actually cheat and 51% attack the system.
Okay. Now, how does the tokenomics of band protocol work?
Right. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a bit here. So how does the tokenomics work, right? Essentially, the providers need to have some skin in the game, right? Because then otherwise attack is really easy, right? So what happened is these data providers need to stake tokens, right? Let's say they have to stake tokens as a collateral to say, hey, I have something in the game, right? Then these data providers provide the data. Once there are consumers, so there are smart contract that consume this data, need to pay a query fee, right? Just like an API fee in a traditional world, right? Every query generate a fee, and this fee essentially get distributed back to the data providers, right? As a fee, right? And so the incentive is you can think of the band token almost like how to say that? We call it a work tokens, where we stake, we perform the work, and we earn the money from doing the work. So it's not a securities per se, because you actually have to perform something, right? And act in the network in a goodwill, and then you will receive this fee, right? So if there are more usages in terms of the data feed, then there will be more revenue or cash flow that flow through the system, and that will go back to the data providers who hold the tokens, right? And it go back proportionately. So if you hold more tokens, do the work, then you earn more from the query fee.
And is there a fixed supply of the tokens, or does it have an inflation rate?
So we actually have a fixed supply at the moment, but obviously we are also evaluating different options in terms of inflations to make sure maybe the better user experience, and also when we migrate to chain, which I think we'll go into more detail.
Okay, and with the token itself, how do you see it sort of maintaining value over time?
Mm-hmm. Right. So I think that's a tricky part, right? Because obviously, tokens are really volatile, right? And it has a lot of impact by the macro sentiment, right? But what we see is that I think in the next few years, the value of this token will be more stabilized, right? People will actually use it for its purposes, right? So right now, what we try to do is we try to encourage more people to do more staking, to provide the data, and essentially reduce that volatility, right? And I think that will come over time. Not going to happen soon, but it will happen in the next few years for sure. I mean, you see what happened to synthetics, right? Synthetics has most of the token lockup. That also reduces the volatilities, and it actually help to maintain or create the value over time, right? So that's the same goal that we are trying to approach.
Okay. Now, we talked a bit about there's Chainlink, which is similar in your space to some extent, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But and they've become quite popular in recent months, and I think it's important to flag. I think Band is very much in that space as well, and although I think there's a really what's interesting about Band is that you're bridging the gap between obviously this off-chain and on-chain data as well. But what would you say are the key differences between Band and Chainlink?
Sure. We'll try to go into a high-level detail, I guess. But in terms of, I think there are two fundamental things that we are different to Chainlink, right? One is the way people query the data, and two is the token model, right? And the first one on the query the data part is that with us, right? We think of us as a push model where we say, hey, there are a set of data that a lot of these DeFi projects or a lot of this common D apps will require, right? So we'll push the data that data, let's say price of Ethereum's, into the blockchain. So the data is already there, right? Once the data is already there, the apps can easily query the data, right? Because it's already there. It's as simple as looking it up, right? That make it cheaper. That make it really fast to actually execute, right? Everything happen in one transactions. There's no delay in terms of getting the data in, right? Whereas for Chainlink, they go in a flexible route where they say, okay, anyone can request the data. The data providers will go fetch the data and report back, right? So that's almost like a question and answer model. The benefit of that is obviously more flexible. The drawback of that is, again, it introduces delay in terms of data. It introduces more fee, right? It actually costs a lot more to actually query the data using that methods right now. Now, with that said, obviously there are pro and con in both ways, and I think both of us are working on way to improve and optimize our protocol for both use cases in the future for sure. So that's the first part. The second bit, I think, which is also really important, is the token model, right? As I described earlier, our token model allow us to capture the value of the network. Meaning, if there are more usages, there will be more revenue that will flow to the token holder who stake, right? That essentially create value to the token itself, right? Whereas for Chainlink right now, it acts almost like a payment tokens, right? It doesn't have staking yet, but again, I think a lot of this will change over time as well, right? But I think that's also a critical part that we need to differentiate. Because for us, when we design a protocol, we try to emphasize the fact that, hey, these tokens are not useless tokens used for the another method of payment, because that just introduces more friction, right? For us, we try to design a system such that the value will accrue from the network to the token itself.
Okay. Now, with Band, I guess, are there some other benefits that might not be immediately apparent and why you'd want to use it versus Chainlink?
Well, I guess for us, again, I think the benefit is really fast and it's really cheap right now to query data from us, right? So I think when we talk to a lot of the projects, to be honest though, when we talk to a lot of the projects, right, most of them are quite open to actually use both solutions as opposed to one. Partly again, because data Oracle is such a big problem. If Oracle is compromised, the whole smart contract is compromised. So, it's almost like, hey, if you want to fly an airplane, you would want to have two engines that if one engine fail, you have another one, right? You want other scenarios where if one engine fail and then the whole project, your plane failed, right? That shouldn't be the case. So I think it's fair to say a lot of projects are open to utilize both. Now, why would someone use us over Chainlink? I would say we're trying to provide a more developer friendly, so people can actually use 3 line of code to actually integrate our data into the smart contract. Really easy. You can set it up in a minute.
Okay. Tell us about, so let's talk about DeFi and Web 3.0 a little bit. What are some of the services right now that are using oracles? Like who is using your Oracle service right now?
Right. So I mean, again, it's easy to say, almost all DeFi projects will require an Oracle if you are providing a decentralized service, right? Again, if you provide a decentralized service, it's impossible to operate without an Oracle, right? How do you, create a synthetic token if you don't know what is that current value of that asset, right? If you talk about, let's say, betting apps, right? How do you know if Chelsea actually win? How do you know who actually win the match, right? You need you need an Oracle service to tell you that. Or even as simple as dice betting, flipping the coin, random number generation. How do you ensure that those data are accurate, right, and not gameable? There was almost every single one of the decentralized smart contract require an Oracle, and this is why it's really important for people to understand this, that Oracle is almost like a core infrastructure, similar to Ethereum's, similar to all these layer 1 blockchain solutions, because without it, you cannot create any meaningful smart contract or applications out of it.
Okay, cool. And which services or coins are using your coin today?
Right. So we have a number of partners that we already announced, like Consent, well, there's a few more. I'm trying to keep things in the wrap, but essentially we have a few lending protocol that we are working with, a few stable coin, Again, our stable coin will require decentralized stable coin will need some despised Oracle. And we are working with a number of companies in the betting space, in the gaming space, that would require some of these services. And that will be one of our focus as well next year. And I think we talk a lot about decentralized applications like DeFi and all that, right? But we are also focusing on traditional industry. Because you think about it, right? A lot of the traditional industry are looking into ways to utilize this smart contract, right? To automate some of the processes. For example, if company A send an invoice to company B, then automatically trigger the payment from company B to company A, or issue an invoice or issue a certificate or whatnot, right? Some of these smart contracts are being explored. And they all require use of, again, Oracle, right, to connect all this real world information, whether the invoice has already been paid, or if we need to send instruction to the bank to issue the payment, right? So again, Oracle is a bridge between the real world and the smart contract or the blockchain world, and those are some of the industry that we are focusing on, and will be our major focus next year.
Brilliant. Now, with the DeFi space, what are some of your predictions? Where do you think it's going in the future?
Right. Well, I think for me, right, obviously decentralized lending going to be there. Over collateralized lending, that's always going to be there. What I'm more bullish on, and I guess I'm quite interested in, is the synthetics asset, right? So again, I guess synthetics as a project also is an example of that synthetic asset, right? How do we create a tokens that mirror some of the real world, financial products, so that people can easily access this sort of product, right? Such as the stock in the US, such as bonds and all these other instruments, right? Because right now it's really difficult, right? I mean, if let's say I'm in Thailand, right? I want to buy Apple stock. It's really difficult for me as a Thai person, right? Only the wealthy get access to that. And I think it would be quite a revolutionary concept if we are able to create this so-called open finance or decentralized finance, right, for everyone to access this financial product in a cost-effective manner. And I think that's where we are heading as an industry as well, to create more of these financial products that are easily accessible everywhere.
Brilliant. Now, you guys are working primarily with Ethereum today.
Yeah.
Where's your what's your sort of view on Ethereum 2.0 and where that's going?
Right. So honestly, in terms of scaling, right, I'm not super, I'm partial about it. Meaning, I don't think Ethereum needs to scale much more than this, honestly, right? Why is that? Because for me, Ethereum right now should be focusing on this decentralized finance and others, financial applications, right? The non-financial application, I don't think there's a lot of value in that, honestly, in using blockchain or smart contract. In the whole value chain, right? I think financial products make the most sense, and a lot of the time, this financial product do not require a lot of scaling solution, right? I mean, you think about MakerDAO, you think about Compound, you don't require constant, I guess, constant transactions, right, to do that, right? And so for me, obviously the upgrade will be there. There will be more scaling solutions, and that should be good enough for Ethereum. I mean, Ethereum should be focusing on financial application. You don't have to. You just leave the CryptoKitties to other blockchain. That's fine. I don't think there's a lot of value in that. So,
okay, interesting. I guess on Twitter. You've been talking about a band protocol being a service for Web 3.0. What do you see? How would you describe what Web 3.0 is? And
right. So I think it's important to say, okay, Web 2.0 is where a lot of the centralized companies triumph, right? Google, Facebook, right? They control all the data. Everything is really centralized, right? In Web 3.0, that's essentially the decentralized web, right? Where nobody distributed, right? And so what I see is obviously there would be a shift in terms of the paradigm that we're in, right? Instead of we relying on these centralized services, there will be more and more decentralized services that come into the market that are more user-friendly, that are easier to use. And I think we're going to see the shift in that trend. I mean, we already see that, right? People start to despise Facebook and the power that they have, right? Google as well, right? So I think people are still start to see that there are potentially some alternative, right? That people can use, and it's actually better. And I think over time then we'll see that shift. I mean, easy example is how a lot of people start to shift from traditional messaging app to Telegram, right? Because of the incident with the government, the distrust in the government, the distrust in the companies, right? So we start to see that shift over and over. And I think eventually then Web 3.0 will look like a distributed web that nobody control, and the user have much more privacy than right now.
Okay. Tell us about looking in the future for Band Protocol. What are some of the new partnerships that you're working on? What do they sort of enable?
Sure. So I guess two things that we can differentiate, right? One is on the DeFi space, and I guess the whole D apps. So we are continuing to push on that. Work with the members of the DeFi projects to integrate our solution. It would take some time because we are relatively new projects. So it will require some time for us to build that track record, to build that trust, right? That our project will not fail, right? So we continue to push on that part, working with lending protocols, stable coins, synthetic tokens, and other major, I guess gaming that I mentioned, like betting, in this space, right? And then at the same time, we'll continue to push on the enterprise adoption. So like I said, the type of partnership that we are trying to work with right now with traditional companies are ways to utilize our Oracle and smart contract to automate some of the internal processes or processes between different stakeholders. And we're working with leading banks and telecom companies here in Thailand and in Southeast Asia as well. And obviously we will want to expand our presence more global next year.
Okay. Now, in 2020, what are some of the new developments or things you're sort of planning that you can share with us?
Sure. I guess apart from the partnership and all that, right? In 2020 will be really exciting because we're going to be upgrading a lot of our protocol and infrastructure as well. So right now, as you mentioned, we are on Ethereum, right? But AV Smart Contract platform will require an Oracle to operate. So therefore, we need to be Crosschain compatible. So what we are researching at the moment and implementing is essentially a Crosschain protocol to serve this data across multiple smart contract platforms, right? So we'll move from Ethereum as well to a blockchain agnostic, potentially our own chain. We call it band chain, for lack of a better word. But we'll have our own band chain in 2020. It will be Crosschain compatible, and we'll be able to serve all this data to all the I guess protocol and the apps across AV smart contract.
Wow, cross-chain compatible oracles. I guess we would say cross-chain compatible data feeds. Really, I suppose that's
So then it's really easy to say if as a developers you can choose any layer one blockchain you want. You want scalabilities over securities, fine, you go with EOS, or you want full security, go with Ethereum. We'll be there to support this data to anyone, right? And you see a number of layer one blockchain coming into the market, like Cosmos, Polkadot, to bring this to all the smart contract platforms. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Now, last question we've got is, we ask everyone, and I just want to note this show is being filmed at a time where it's very close to the new year. We ask everyone, what is the price of Bitcoin going to be on New Year's Eve in US dollars? And you can answer however you want. This is not financial advice. We don't do financial advice on this show. So, Suravis, what do you think the price will be? I believe we're filming this with 13 days to go, so you're kind of on the green and you get a good chance here. So
that's right.
I think the price right now.
I better get close to the Taka.
Well, you've got what are we trading at? $6,700 or $6,679 right now. So I think that's where we are.
Yep.
What do you think your forecast for New Year's Eve? It's a big year coming up with the halvening with Bitcoin as well. I'm interested in your view.
So I'm going to be a bit more bullish for the next 2 weeks. And I'll say, we're probably going to go back to around 7,500.
7,500. Okay. Awesome
that would be a good scenario for us. But yes, I mean, look, even if we provide Oracle, I'm not an actual Oracle to tell to know the future. So we'll see how it goes.
Awesome stuff. Well, Suravis, thank you so much for joining us. And obviously, if everyone wants to join along and understand more about Band Protocol, we've got the Twitter handle there at Band Protocol. And is there anywhere else, for everyone to sort of follow along?
Sure. I mean, we have Twitter, we have Mediums, we have Telegram, all the usual channels for a crypto project, right? So definitely follow us on all those mediums to stay updated, especially Telegram, right? Come speak. I'm always active. We are active there. All the team members are there. We can answer any question that you guys may have.
Awesome stuff. Thanks so much for joining us, Suawas. All right, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No worries. That is a Band Protocol. Do check it out, guys. Do subscribe. Do follow us at the Daily Exchange. We're bringing you more of the latest DeFi right now. And the Band Protocol seems like a really fancy one. We'll see you guys later. Yeah.